I did. I heard it coming back from the bar one night. And it was late.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm tired. That's not so
Weren't they advocating how to get rid of all of the rules and things like that so people would stay out of trouble?
because they were like, we're not really getting any harm. So if the police come, they can
I know, I've noticed that.
Children, because if you look at it,
Because that's not a real child.
Right.
it's a victim, right?
Let's have those memories. So what did he play Uptown Girl?
Yes,
Sorry. He did.
Thanks for that. And welcome back.
And welcome back.
I'm sorry.
Take your seat.
So glad you're back.
I just wanted to make
Who's they are? They're not hers because she's not here. Well, just put them in
I
this
just
chair.
want to make sure
Hey,
if
just
it's
put them in
something
this
they
chair.
picked up, there's nothing we can do about that, but I want to
that
make sure
chair.
we're not actually giving her money.
She'll get up here as soon as I ring the gavel,
That's
which
good.
I'm
I
about to
remember
do.
when we saw him, he wasn't doing any of the stuff in the 70s.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Sierra Vista City Council meeting for April 25th. I call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Rick Mueller,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Rachel Gray, Councilmember William Benning,
Present.
Councilmember Gwen Calhoun,
Present.
Councilmember Sarah Pacheco,
Present.
Councilmember Christine Wolf.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mrs. Adams. I'll just mention that the Mayor Pro Tem called earlier and said she would not be here. Tonight we'll start as we normally do with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight the invocation will be led by Pastor Greg Rolls of the God is Good Church, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Councilwoman Pacheco. I'd ask you to please rise, Reverend.
Sarah's not here.
Sorry.
We'll figure it out.
You take it.
Before we pray, I'd like to just take a moment and thank the mayor and the city council for allowing us the opportunity to come and open in prayer. I think it's just quite a blessing and something to really speak out about, because so many cities and communities have given up on this, and to know that the city of Sierra Vista and those who lead are not ashamed of the name of Jesus and give the church a chance to speak out. I want to applaud you and say thank you so much. If I get you now to bow your hearts with me in prayer. Father God, it's in the name of Jesus that we come before you right now, giving you thanks and praise. Ask you, Lord, to bless this meeting, this gathering, Father, of our mayor and our city council members and those who lead this city. Father, right now I ask you that you get them wisdom, understanding, knowledge, and insight, and let them work in unity as one with no hidden agendas or personal things behind their back right now. Lord, it would be all out in the open, and a blessing to you that you would bless this city and all that takes place, that we would be a light that would shine and people would see what we stand for, Lord. Father, I thank you right now, Father, that, Father, as they lead and guide and direct the business of Sierra Vista, that you will be with them. And, Father, you will bless their families, bless their time away from here, Lord, but keep us together as one, and let all things be done unto you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Thank you very much, Pastor Rolls. And thank you, Gwen, for filling in. I don't know where Sarah got. She was downstairs earlier, so maybe she'll find her way up here. We now go on to item number 1, acceptance of the agenda. Ms. Humphrey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the agenda for the regular city council meeting of April 25th, 2019 be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additions? Changes? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Before we go on to the awards and presentations, I just want to make a comment. We kind of have an unusual council meeting tonight. We have a couple items on the consent agenda And then we have 3 public hearing items. If there are people in the audience that wish to address us, there are forms like this that are against the wall there as well as behind the wall over here. We'd ask you to grab one of those forms if you want to address us on an item and pass it to Maria, the clerk. That allows us to be able to spell your name correctly in the record, among other things, and get you called up in an efficient manner so you have a chance to address the council properly. So with that, we now go on to awards and presentations. And I'd ask, where is he with a good-looking shirt and tie on today? Mr. Pregler.
The blue is a very nice color.
Isn't it? Brings out his eyes.
Sharpie blue.
Oh.
Are we on? One of the items on tonight is the city passing a resolution on supporting the U.S. government's fair housing policies, and with that, we always give a proclamation as well. And as the acting director of the Community Development Department, I've asked Mr. Pregler to step forward and accept this on behalf of the community. It's my honor and privilege as mayor of the city of Sierra Vista to offer the following proclamation on behalf of the good citizens of Sierra Vista. Whereas in 1968 and 1988, Federal Fair Housing Acts declare that it is a national policy to ensure equal opportunities in housing. And whereas these acts prohibit discrimination in the sale, rental, leasing, and finance of housing or land on the basis of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, disability, or familial status. And whereas April 2019 marks the 51st anniversary celebration of the Fair Housing Month. Now therefore be resolved that I, Frederick W. Mueller, Mayor of the City of Sierra Vista, Arizona, do hereby proclaim April 2019 to be Fair Housing Month in and for the City of Sierra Vista. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the great seal of the City of Sierra Vista to be affixed. This is the 25th day of April, the year of our Lord 2019, and independence of the United States of America, 242nd. Signed, Frederick Mueller, Mayor. There you go, Jeff. Congratulations. Thank you, Jeff. And we now go on to the city manager's report. Mr. Patuchik.
Thank you, Mayor Mueller, members of the council. Our next work session is scheduled for May 7th. That's a Tuesday at 3 p.m. It it's scheduled to be in the conference room, and that will include a continuation of our budget discussions. Moving on to projects, we have an open continuous solicitation for individuals and groups to instruct classes. As you're aware, we've moved away from an employee-based instruction base to a contract situation that has worked out very well for us, and we are happy to entertain instructors under that basis. Please get with our procurement department. The next project is the engineering design North Garden Avenue and Fry Boulevard improvements. Those will be published in the Herald from May 1st through 5th, and then a pre-qual conference is scheduled for May 15th. And then hopefully we'll be opening bids May 23rd. We also have requests for quotes that was opened on the Rothery Field fencing project. And we received 2 quotes, one from K&G and the other in Brown and White. And that is currently under evaluation. And finally, the CDBG Timothy Lane Park Improvements project was awarded to K&G Construction, and that should be beginning very soon. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you, Mayor Mueller.
Thank you, Mr. Patuchik. I missed it. I guess I wasn't.
There's
one other that I'm asking you about. It just happened the other day.
And I wrote it here, and I forgot it. I apologize. Basically, I wanted to announce that the Department of Housing and Urban Development announced that we will be receiving approximately $270,000 in CDBG funds for the coming year, and that's very similar to last year's amount, so it's good to see that that program has continued to be funded. So we're looking forward to as well.
Thank you, Mr. Patuchik. Any questions for Mr. Patuchik on his report? Yes, ma'am.
I do. It's not exactly on his report, but did we ever get a response for the coffee shop for the library?
Actually, no, we haven't, but we are working with somebody, so hopefully we'll have some resolution here soon.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Patuchik? Okay, then we'll move on. Item number 2, this is a consent agenda. Mr. Benning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I move that the consent agenda consisting of the City Council regular meeting minutes of April 11th, 2019, Resolution 2019-031, appointment of Rebecca Dalu to the Arts and Humanities Commission, and Resolution 2019-032, restating the city's commitment to the fair housing in Sierra Vista be approved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, before we go further, I just want to mention for the record that Ms. Pacheco is now here as well. That way we won't screw up the count on the vote. Okay. Any comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We now go on to the next 3 public hearing items. And item number 3, Mrs. Calhoun.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2019-033, request for a conditional use permit for an accessory dwelling unit at 3498 Via Camellia be approved.
Second, do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Pregler, may we have the staff report, please?
Yes, you can. Thank you, Mayor Mueller and members of council. As stated in the motion, this is a request for a conditional use permit for an accessory dwelling unit located at 3498 Via Camellia, which is located in the Canada Flores subdivision, which is in the south end of Sierra Vista. A little bit of background on this particular request. The applicant is requesting that they construct and install a 384 square foot accessory dwelling unit to be used specifically for family use only. He does not want to use this or rent it out for compensation. He wants to use it specifically, or they want to use it specifically for family use. The zoning on the property is single-family residential 8, which means that the lot sizes are a minimum of 8,000 square feet, and the actual size of this property is approximately 19,000 square feet. Quick definition of accessory dwelling unit. It is basically a dwelling unit that is subordinate and incidental to the principal dwelling unit on the property, and it has to contain both kitchen and sanitation facilities. In this case, this proposed structure will contain both facilities. So looking at the site suitability of this particular structure, let's first take a look at the height. The height of the structure is actually more restrictive than is required by zoning. The proposed height is going to be 10 feet 6 inches. The maximum height for a principal structure is 28 feet, and the maximum height for an accessory structure, like a shed, for example, is 15 feet. Secondly, this request is consistent with separation requirements. As I mentioned at the work session, the development code does not specify setback requirements for accessory dwelling units. Therefore, staff has requested that the applicant meet the minimum separation requirements for dwelling units that are located within the building code. If the structure does not have a fire-rated wall, then the minimum setback from a property line is 5 feet. The applicant has agreed with this condition, being at least a minimum of 5 feet back from the side property line. Thirdly, that the structure does meet front yard setbacks and locational requirements. Now, there are setback requirements for accessory structures such as sheds. For example, one of the requirements is that these accessory structures cannot be located within a front yard building setback. The setback for this particular property is 25 feet. The structure will be at least 65 feet from the front property line. It does meet this criteria. Secondly, it states that no accessory structure can be located in front of a principal structure. And again, based on the plot plan that was submitted, this will be located in the side yard of the property and not located in front of the principal structure. And lastly, there'll be minimal traffic noise generated by this particular request. As I stated, this will be for family use only and not be used or rented out for compensation. And there's a quick plot plan of the property. The ability to serve, again, because there will not be a lot of traffic generated from this particular request, Access will be from an existing driveway on the property. Additional driveways will not be required. They'll also be connected to city sewer for the kitchen and sanitation facilities. In terms of being compatible with the surrounding area, the applicant has stated that the accessory dwelling unit will be architecturally consistent with the existing structures and the principal structure on the property. They've stated that they will be stuccoed and painted similar to match the principal structure, and that the roof materials will also be match the materials of the roof of the principal structure. And then finally, this request is consistent with the general plan. There have been ample opportunities for citizen participation for this request. The applicant held a neighborhood meeting as required by the Development Code on February 2nd, 2019. There were approximately 5 property owners that attended the meeting, and there were a few comments via email as well. At that neighborhood meeting, it was discovered that the adjacent property owner to the east had some concerns about the location of the accessory structure. At that time, the structure was going to be located on the east side of the property. The eastern property owner had some concerns that it would affect the view sheds of the mountains, and so based on those discussions, the applicant did move the accessory structure to the west side of the property and has received actually an approval from that western property owner. The P&Z did recommend approval of the request on April 16th with staff's 2 recommendations, and those would be number 1, that the accessory dwelling unit only be used by family members and not rented for compensation. Number 2, that the accessory dwelling unit shall have a minimum 5-foot side yard setback. The applicant is agreeable to both conditions, and also stated at the work session, the question was brought up about does the conditional use permit run with the property or run with the property owner? The answer is this will run with the property in perpetuity. If a property owner further down the road wants to make amendments to the conditional use permit conditions, they'll have to go back, apply for an amendment, and go through a separate public hearing process. So that does conclude staff's report. I do want to say that the applicant, Mitch and Kristen Hale, are in the audience tonight to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, before we go to questions to council, I'm going to thank you for the good report, Jeff, and thank the Hales for being here as well. This is a public hearing. Right now, I've got no one that would like to address us on this issue, so I'm going to ask, is there anybody out there that would like to address us on this issue? Okay, so I'll close the public hearing. And council, questions, discussion? Yes, ma'am.
I just have one question. So are we, I know we just went through a lot of stuff, but are we basically just talking about a mother-in-law suite?
Yeah,
That's basically what it is.
Okay.
I think in this case it's the daughter though.
Any other questions, discussion?
No, sir.
I just had a comment that after the presentation at the work session on Tuesday, I felt that there was some serious due diligence in this permitting process, so I felt the homeowners really did their due diligence and even adjusting their plans after a neighbor stated a concern, and holding a public meeting and gathering comments from neighbors. So that's all.
Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else? No further discussion. I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll now go on to item number 2. Ms. Wolf, or item number 4, excuse me. I can't read the highlighted areas. It's too dark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2019-034, request for a conditional use permit for the Christian House Fellowship Church at 300 East Wilcox Drive be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Pregler, may we have the staff report, please?
Yes, you can. Thank you, Mayor Mueller, members of council. Again, this is a request for a conditional use permit for the Christian House Fellowship Church located at 300 East Wilcox Drive. The applicants are proposing to relocate their existing church and move to the 300 East Wilcox Drive property. It is currently a commercial zoned property, zoned general commercial. The approximate lot size is 38,000 square feet. In terms of site suitability, the proposed use will be consistent with the surrounding commercial land uses. The church services will typically be Sunday mornings and Wednesday evenings. Most of the commercial properties will either be closed during those times. We'll have minimal traffic. In terms of adequate on-site parking, they do have plenty of parking on the property. There are currently 130 existing parking spaces. The applicant has indicated that they will average 65 to 70 individuals on Sundays, less on Wednesdays. According to the ITE parking manual, 66 spaces are required for 330 seats, and that is how many seats are currently located within the building structure. So there are plenty of parking spaces on the site. And thirdly, the building was previously a church and is code compliant with many of the church requirements and amenities needed. Ability to serve, there are currently 3 access points. On the property, there is a limited access on Wilcox Drive, right in, right out. There also is an access off of Meyer Drive and also access off of 2nd Street. And they will be connected to city sewer as well. Again, I mentioned they are compatible with the surrounding property uses. They are consistent with the general plan in terms of opportunities for citizen participation. This is a public hearing process. The city did send out notifications to all property owners within 500 feet. We did receive no comments regarding this request. Also, in terms of maintaining, improving, and revitalizing older areas of the community as a second consistency with the general plan, they are repurposing an existing building on the property, so it is compliant with this general plan requirement as well. The P&Z did recommend unanimous approval 7-0, and so staff does recommend approval of this request for your consideration tonight. This concludes staff's report.
Okay. So before we go to council comments, this is again is a public hearing item. We don't have any requests to address this on this item. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address this on this specific item? Seeing none, we'll go to council discussion. Any comments, discussion on this item? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Pregler. We'll next move on to item number 5. Ms. Flassar.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this agenda item opens an official 30-day public hearing period for the purpose of receiving public comments on the proposed routing changes to Vista Transit. Policies adopted in accordance with federal requirements stipulate both a public meeting and a public hearing be held in advance of any major changes to the system. The public meeting was held last week at the Vista Transit Center using an open house format and was attended by approximately 40 people. 14 people provided written comments at the meeting, and another 3 provided written comments separately. In addition, the subject was discussed at a recent Transit All-Hands meeting and a Transportation Advisory Committee meeting, and consolidated versions of those discussions have also been recorded. A copy of all comments received to date has been provided to council. Comments vary, but one of the recurring concerns is extended wait and travel times on the hour-long loops. Concerns have also been raised about the elimination of some existing stops and potential relocation of new stops. Although staff is already evaluating comments received to date, after the 30-day comment period is completed, all comments will be consolidated and evaluated for potential inclusion into a revised routing plan. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Before we get started, we got a number of people that would like to address us, and I'd like to get you up here as soon as we can. But I want to point out the last thing she said is comments will be considered in a revised plan. We are not approving a plan tonight. We are here to listen to the comments, take them into consideration. The proposed plan will then be amended accordingly, and that will come back at another time to the city council for discussion and decision. So we have a number of people that would like to address us tonight, so we'll open the public hearing. And again, you're welcome anytime to send additional comments. I know there's been many. I've read everything that's been sent to me already. I'm sure the other council members would tell you the same thing. I appreciate the fact that they're very detailed, very focused, and we already have a great public participation already, and we hope to increase that by tonight and the future meetings as well when we have a time for public comment. The way this works is I will call the person who is giving us the paper. And if you came in late and you don't know there's papers on both entrances that you need to fill out to give to the secretary, so at least spell your name right in the record. And when you get called up, you'll have 5 minutes to address us, and there's a little light thing that will go from green to red. When you get to red, I will ask you to complete your remarks. So the first person we've got that wants to address us tonight is Miss Diane Thomas.
Modern technology, not for me.
I guess the lights aren't working.
Mayor Mueller and city council members, as well as I wasn't expecting the rest of the city council to be with us as well. My name is Diane Thomas. My son and Ray, this young man here, and I have used this vital Vista Transit service system for 15 years. We have adjusted to the many changes over the years, and again, changes are being asked for by the mayor and this council. The demeanor of the transit personnel and the passengers of Vista Transit are very stressful. There is concern over possibility of shutting down the system completely, loss of jobs, finding alternative ways of getting around town. I've done my research. I understand your bottom line is a dollar sign, because this is a very costly, vital service to this city budget. I ask you, Mayor Mueller and city council members, what is the city doing to create a lucrative cash flow into the general fund of the city of Sierra Vista to match the grant funding for the vital transit service that this city needs? I do not feel full disclosure of possible changes have been given to the public, and it is difficult to make a choice without knowing the full amount of information that is available. I ask this council, has there been previous mismanagement of this particular vital service to the city? As for me and my son, I am willing to pay a little bit more to keep this vital service going. In closing, I ask you, Mayor Mueller, members of this council, and the citizens of our great city, just because you may not personally use this system or this service at this juncture of your lives, doesn't mean it's not a vital service for other citizens that do use this vital transit service. To go to school, to go to work, to doctor's appointments, the grocery store, to pick up their prescriptions. For citizens to enjoy this extraordinary skies and uncommon ground of this city that we all call home. We are not a unique ridership that uses this vital service. We are a diverse group of people, individuals, who use the service for many reasons. If you have not ridden the bus system, I challenge you, Mayor Mueller, the council, and all the citizens here that have cars easily available to them, to come ride the bus, to see what it is like to have not have the convenience of an automobile. I have perused the current proposal. I do have the same concerns that have been mentioned. I don't have any other resources of my own to purchase a car. Now, I'm going to tell you, walking ain't crowded, but ladies and gents, my soles are worn. There is a hole in my shoe. I've walked from one side of this town to the other and back again on many occasions. Some of the stops that you are proposing, not necessary. Some of the items of going up and down 92, the bypass 90 and Fry Boulevard, they're accident-prone areas. I can't say everyone, but for me and my son, riding on that bypass would bother us greatly because we see how people drive in this town. Some are distracted by cell phones. Some are distracted just by looking at a pretty girl or a good-looking man walking down the street. So I ask you, find a way to keep this service running. And just because there's only minimum ridership at certain stops, they should not be cut. Because in my challenge, I challenge you to, when you go home, how far would you have to walk to your bus stop from your home if your car did not start or any other reasons that may come up in the future? I thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. And I just mentioned here real quick, there was a comment made about shutting down the system, and Mr. Petuchek, that is not in the current plan or something we're looking at, is it?
Mayor Mueller, members of the council, absolutely not.
Okay, and the other question that I think we could answer pretty well is, we do an audit as on an annual basis on all federal funding and et cetera, and we have no deficits or issues specifically related to transit.
None.
Okay, thank you. We'll next go to Ms. Georgie Schumacher. Good to see you again. I remember you last couple times we did this. Please come up.
People don't forget me.
Yeah.
I'm like a bad penny. I keep showing up. Well, I was at the gathering last Thursday, and I feel that it was very well presented. There were a lot of things that came out that I wouldn't have thought of, and Diane was a good example. Some of the things that I was talking about. Yes, I've lived in this town since 1985, so that makes it 34 years. I've seen a lot of things happen. I've seen a lot of changes, and I had to be dependent on the shuttle, the curbside 8 years ago when my husband passed away. I'm legally blind, 77 years old. You don't want me driving on the street. So my biggest concern is the bus. I've seen it go from 5 routes to 4 routes. And let me tell you that my doctor's offices, most of them are either at the hospital or they're over on Paseo San Luis and Snyder Road. And that's our loop. And this last time when I was at my doctor for a physical, he was late. So I told him, hurry up, my bus is coming. I gotta be out of here at 10 minutes after the hour, or I'm gonna have to wait an hour. Would y'all wanna wait an hour? In the cold, in the heat, wind blowing, which I've done lots of times. That's not fun. Diane had brought up something about we can't, if we're cooking a meal and we run short of an ingredients, let's say, I can't jump in a car and go to the store and get it. No, I've got to change my menu, which I've done before. But I mean, we don't have that privilege. I can't go out to eat after 3 o'clock because the buses don't go my area after 3 o'clock. Each way, so that's $10 before I even get started with my meal. So I have very seldom ridden the bus loop, which is on the west side of town, and there are very few riders. There are some tweaking that could be done, but still at the same time, an hour loop, I don't go for that at all. Half an hour is good. When I buy ice cream, I expect to get it home before it's melt. So thank you very much for listening, and please take our comments and thread into advisement, and have a good evening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Schumacher. We next go to Ms. Lori Schlichtman.
Mr. Mayor and City Council members, I moved here in 2014. Right before I came here, my car was totaled in an accident. with the stress and the expense of moving, I wasn't able to get another one when I got here. And somebody said to me when I did get here, you know, you're not going to have to worry about that because Sierra Vista has a very good bus system. And within a week of my coming here, I started writing that system, and it was really good. I come from originally New York City, so I was not afraid of public transportation. And I found that it was something where I was seeing a lot of different types of people using the same system. There were parents that would pick up their kids after school. There were people who were older. And there were a lot of people going to jobs, especially at fast food places. And if you try to get on one of the buses on a Saturday, you better be prepared to be holding on to the side because it is crowded. The same thing happens at different times in the month. The middle of the month, the beginning of the month, and the end of the month. I can get all the shopping I need to do done on one bus. With some of these changes, I don't think that's going to happen. With the proposed change to make one of the most occupied transfer areas Walmart, that is going to be a major problem. Because even if, you know, they go, oh, the bus will go more frequently, but that may not be the bus you need. So if you miss your bus, you're stuck out in that little shelter that only seats about 4 people for an hour. That could be during monsoon season. That could be during the worst of the summer. So actually, I have a kind of counter proposal for that, that if that is something you're going to do, that little bus shelter is not going to work. You need to do something bigger, something where more people could be seated, perhaps out of plexiglass or something else. We had a lot of plexiglass bus stops in New York for our buses, and it kept the rain off people, it kept the wind off people, and if you actually made a small structure and put benches around the edges, you would be able to have a lot more passenger flow. Because I think the way it sits right now, that's not going to work. That's going to be a mess. And also, there's still some stops that have no shelters. I don't know how many of those are going to stay in the plan, but they need some type of shelter. There's just benches, like in front of Hobby Lobby. There's just a metal bench sitting in the sun, with no shade on either side. You have to go across into the parking lot to get under a tree to get some shade. So there are areas that still have to be worked on within the stops that we do have as well. And I just want to say, this, you know, I've heard of other cities stopping their bus systems, but I think what Sierra Vista has very good bones. And I think that, you know, we need to all work together to get it to the point where it's going to serve everyone it needs to. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schleckman. I'll just mention that at the work session last Tuesday, we did talk about shelters and some issues dealing with private property owners. And the one story you mentioned did come up about overhead shelter and the fact that we have to have some type of agreement. And staff has already been given direction to look at that as on their own rather than tying it essentially to this particular issue. Next, we have Mr. Anthony Reed. Mr. Reed.
Mr. Mayor, City Council. My name's Anthony Reed. I'm the principal of the Colin Powell Learning Center. A lot of you guys might know it as Pep Tech High School. It's the charter alternative high school here in town. I got wind of this change from my students. And because we have probably anywhere from 10 to almost 20% of the population that catches the bus at any time on a daily basis. And when they told me, they were up in the air about it and everything else like that. So in the 5 years that I've been the principal there, I've had a really good relationship with the Vista Transit. I mean, there was one while when I couldn't get the kids to school until an hour later than school started. I went and talked to them, and they worked with me a lot of times. The rare occasion that we have an unruly student, they tell me. Sometimes I even ride the bus sometimes. So I've had a good relationship with Vista Transit. Our school pays a substantial amount yearly for the bus passes that we give the kids for free, because most of the kids are what we call McKinney-Vento kids, and they're low-income kids. So one of the perks that we tell them, I can get them to school, I can get them home. In fact, we have after-school programs for the kids just so we can adjust for the bus that stops at 3:15. School lets out at 2:30, so we have other activities going on until those kids catch the bus. Like I said, 10 to 15% of the student population rides public transportation to school. Many of them are in low-income areas of town. A lot of them live over in the Los Palomas apartments and over on that side of town. I'd like to speak to you at another time. We can talk about getting transportation from Hereford and Huachuca City, because we have kids that come as far away as Elfrida to come to school every day. So, but that's another day. But for the kids that I have now, to get them to and from school, and they come to school every day. If they're not on the school and they're not on that bus, then I know something is wrong. The proposed changes will cause great hardship, as it will be more than a 90-minute ride each way. And for them to get back and forth to school, it's not fair for me to ask them to come every day when they can get to Tucson faster than they can get to school. And my attendance has been up, and that I think that my attendance is going to go down if I'm forcing these kids to come to school and ride the bus 90 minutes each way, 90 or so, give or take. Our enrollment has doubled in the 5 years that I've been in this position, and I anticipate increased enrollment next year. And a lot of those kids are coming from those areas that we're talking about. On a personal note, I met my wife in Dubai. We came here because my mom passed away, so she had a house here. My wife is from London. I own 3 cars. My wife refuses to drive because she says we drive on the wrong side of the road. Now, we built our house in Oakmont Estates. Anybody who knows my wife, they know. So we built our house over in Oakmont Estates because it was close proximity to the mall, close proximity so my wife can get on the bus and go to, as she calls it, her haunts, where she goes shopping over in Marshalls and Walmart and all those places, and I don't have to go. And then she also has a job that takes her around the world to get to her job. I used to tease her because prior to me being a principal here, I was a teacher in Douglas, and I could get to Douglas before she would get to work in the morning sometime. But she says that's okay because she loves riding the bus and scenic stuff and things like that. I just would like to see us talk about it a little more. I understand budgets and things like that because I have a school budget. I also would like to see us maybe talk about, for my purpose, even for not just for my wife, but for the kids, the students that catch the bus, and she rides the bus with them in the mornings, I might add. Maybe we can consider something or propose something that's just during the school year for the buses to take that route. Our school starts at 8 o'clock. The bus gets there at 8:15. That's the best that they could do, and I work with that. And I allow the kids to come 15 minutes late, and I fix their schedule so that they're not missing too much of anything for those 15 minutes. And all I'm asking you to do is consider that, because if we don't do that, then a lot of these kids are just not going to be in school. And just as an educator here, it's vital for me to be here and for me to talk. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. We really appreciate you being here and sharing that issue. And that was one concerning thing I had when I read your email that you sent to the council as well, is one of the purposes we outlined last time we looked at changing this was making sure we could hit the educational, both Cochise College and your facility and others, to make sure students could get to the class. So thank you very much. Do we have anybody else that wants to address us tonight? I know that's the last hand. Ma'am, if you would, come and address us, and then you need to fill out a form and give it to Maria, so we got your name spelled out. Oh, you got it right there, okay. Okay. You need to fill it out so we can spell your name right, at least, okay?
Yes.
The microphone's to your left there. There we go. Now we're cooking.
I'm Mrs. Nettles. We had problems getting here tonight. We were supposed to have a cab to get here. Okay, and what had happened, we had to get in the cab, and it's only a one-way fare. Now, how do I get back home? You have your meetings so late. Why can't you have your meetings during the time, like 2 o'clock in the evening for the bus people? I mean, we don't drive like everybody else drive. I've been taking the bus since, 2003 or 4. I've been here since 1999, okay? And I love the bus system because I don't drive, and I do more walking than driving, okay? So we need more time to come to your all meeting to hear what's going on in the world. It was interesting just to hear about different things being built and being around the vicinity, you know? And I like hearing that. So why can't we have meetings at a time that, for the bus people, you know? Okay, that's all I have to say. How am I gonna get back home? Because the bus driver, who will take me?
Yeah, Miss Nettles, if you need a ride, I'll give you a ride home if you need one.
You know where I live.
Yeah. Okay, we thank you very much for your comments.
Yeah, thank you. That wasn't much, but.
Okay. Now, this doesn't end the open meeting period. We have a meeting in a couple of weeks for council, and we'll probably have another one after that, which will be within the 30-day period. You're more than welcome if you forgot something or somebody that couldn't make it tonight, come see us. As far as the times go, this is the set standard time for council meetings, but we have other opportunities for input. For example, we've already mentioned a couple of meetings that were held at the transit station during the daytime and those kind of things. So I think we're making an effort to reach out to everybody. And again, we want input so we can make potential changes to the plan as is currently proposed. And that will come back to the council after the 30-day period for further discussion. And again, of course, you'll have opportunity to comment on the plan as presented to the council once it comes to council. So thank you for being here, and we really appreciate your input tonight. That ends the call to the public. We'll now go to comments and requests for council tonight. We'll start with Councilwoman Wolf.
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mrs. Wolf. Ms. Wolf. You don't vote. We don't vote on it. It's a public hearing item. No, we don't. It's this is an informal time. The next time we do this, to explain to the council, the next time we do this, it will be a formal meeting where we vote to open the period. People will be able to comment on the plan as proposed, because we're making changes to the proposed plan, so we're not there yet. So we're a couple steps ahead. Okay?
Okay. Will we be discussing this at work sessions over the next couple of?
I'm not, well, it's.
Well, we can place it.
We can place it on the agenda if the council would like to discuss it at the work session as well.
Not necessarily,
And
I just.
when we have what will happen is we'll get the public comments from the public after the 30-day period closes. Staff will go back and look at the current plan and make changes as they feel is appropriate and recommended to us. Then it will come back at a work session for us to review, and we'll go through, and then once we understand that, then we'll go out to another public hearing process for 30 days to make sure everybody,
Oh, another.
a formal public hearing.
I wanted to comment that our work sessions are at 3 in the afternoon. And so that might fit some people's schedules a little bit better. And actually, work sessions are more exciting oftentimes.
And since you mentioned that, I say we get a number of people that tell us they work so they can't come during the day and they would like us to meet at 7 o'clock at night. So we try to get the ballot somewhere in between. So that's a challenge for us. Okay, so we're up to Ms. Pacheco.
Comments?
Comments?
I still have nothing.
Oh, she's, I couldn't think of anything.
Okay.
Thought we were voting.
I just wanted to thank everyone for coming that gave their comments on the transit. We are still discussing even before we open the comment period, and I think that we're, committed to that this is a service that remains. There's no intention, none of the discussion has involved shutting down transit. It's just adjusting it, and I think that's fair to state. And we had heard concerns about shelter, many concerns about shelter in the written comments received so far, and that's already an item of discussion as well. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Humphries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome aboard, Rebecca, on the Arts and Humanities Commission. Thank you for your willingness to serve. And I want to thank everyone who came out to speak tonight and submitted comments so far. This really helps us make the best decisions moving forward, and we all really take them seriously. And I wanted to thank Mike Norman for all his work with I think he's back there. Okay, good. With the open house and making sure that everyone had ample time to start giving feedback and putting that all together. So thank you for all your work and making that happen. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Benning.
I'm gonna try to be succinct too. It might be hard. First, I want to thank Pastor Rawls, if he's still here,
He left a few minutes ago.
for his kind words and blessing our community. It is amazing living here. We had a first meet and greet of the year today. I think it was a huge success. We had fun. We had a lot of people coming out talking to us, sharing their ideas. So I look forward to doing many more. I want to thank Rebecca, who we worked on her name today at the farmers market for hours. But congratulations and welcome to the commission. And then for Mr. Reed, first, thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for coming tonight. And then for Miss Diane and Miss Nettles, I know we had a long talk at the transit station. I really appreciate your time and your energy and your commitment to sit and talk with me. It meant a lot. I brought it back. I talked to other council members about it also. And we'll fix the tickets right after this. I apologize. But I do have to thank Ms. Shepherd, who provided the tickets for the ride. So we'll fix those after the meeting. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
We don't fix tickets.
Yeah.
Oh,
Careful
not
on
those
the
kind of
wording.
tickets. The free rides, ladies.
Only free if they're working.
Okay, now we'll move on to Mrs. Calhoun. Mrs. Calhoun.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'm just a country boy. Sorry.
I will just echo the comments that have been made by previous speakers, and especially to thank those who came tonight to speak. Please continue to send your comments to us, and to those who came to meet and greet at Farmers Market today. It was very nice. I have to say, folks who have moved to the town recently were gushing with how much they love Sierra Vista. We had one gentleman come by who said he and his family have been driving around and touched every state, almost every state in the last few months, and chose to come pick Sierra Vista of all the communities they had visited. And I want to say that the one reason that he thought Sierra Vista was such a wonderful community was because it is a community. He said he felt like being here, that we all cared about each other, and that we all that we had a community. And he said something too that I thought was really interesting, because I've heard so often the opposite. He said we kind of have a center around our community, and I believe he was referring to the farmers market area, that they enjoyed that so very much. So first, I encourage everybody to check out Farmers Market if you haven't been there, even if you just go to have a bite to eat, not to really purchase anything. But anyway, it was very heartwarming to hear the comments, so many positive comments about the community Wouldn't you agree
100%.
about that today?
Somebody
Yeah.
said that Public Works was the best run department.
Oh,
Who
that's
was that
right.
guy?
We argue with them, but
It was a member of somebody that was married to somebody from Public Works property.
I know. He was very complimentary on them.
yeah.
We have two
So it was
alibis.
really
He has
nice.
one and I have one.
Thank you, Mr.
We got a couple alibis over here. Go ahead.
I apologize. I had meant to mention just a memoriam. The Airport Commission lost another member this year. Art Weisberger passed away, and so we just they're having a tough year. So having a tough year, that commission is, and yeah. So just in memory of him, we're grateful for his service and best wishes to his family.
Real quick, I just want to say thanks to Mike. Your commitment to everyone you serve at the transit station, contagious. You knew everybody's name, first names, you knew their routes. That was probably the best thing I took away, was your leadership and what you did at transit station. So I just want to say thank you.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. We all got the alibis done? Okay, I just want to again say, Mike, you're doing a great job, and we appreciate it. And the whole goal is to make the system, the transit system, more efficient. So that's the important thing for us. I do want to call out a service organization in town, and that's the Sierra Vista Lions. I think I mentioned 2 years ago that they had purchased 2 machines to go and check the eyesight and evaluate eyesight for young kids as they're coming into school. This past year, they had a goal of testing 4,000 people, not only in Sierra Vista, but now across the county, because they've expanded. And they've crossed the 10,000 student mark for the area. So those are kids that are starting school with proper eye care, proper reading skills, and that will bode well for their education and their health in the future. And so I commend the Sierra Vista Lions Club for doing that. They're a very active club of about 25 to 30 folks. If you're interested in getting involved, they meet on Tuesday nights, the second and third Tuesday at my place for dinner at 6 o'clock. So, well, it's my place. It's the restaurant, not my house. The restaurant, okay? Yeah. I don't want people showing up expecting dinner, okay? You might be surprised at what you get. But they're doing a great job in the community. They've been here, actually, they were named the Sierra Vista Lions Club a year before the Sierra Vista town was named Sierra Vista. Wow. So that's interesting. We might have been named after that club. But bottom line is they're doing a great job. They're supporting the community like many organizations do, and they're hitting a critical need for our young folks as they start their educational process. So I commend the Sierra Vista Lions for doing that. And Mr. City Attorney, there was a rumor going around that you were going to sing "Happy Birthday" to your wife tonight. No? Well, we wish her happy. We wish her happy birthday anyway.
Come on,
So, with nothing else on the agenda, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.